All right. So first of all, I want to acknowledge the very hard work that staff has put into this. And I think that, as was sort of mentioned earlier, people do not appreciate, even residents sometimes, how many different complex overlapping set of rules and regulations that govern the land in this city. We've got our 1920 CC&Rs, we have our 1940 deed restrictions, we have old zoning ordinances like the 1940 and 48 ordinances. We've got various lawsuits, settlements, etc. We've got 100 years of court precedents, and then we've got 100 years of California state legislation, including 100 housing and zoning and land use laws that were passed in just the last 10 years, and of those over 100, something like 70 passed in just the last several years, like few years. So it's a remarkable set of interlocking rules and regulations that potentially affect the use of this land. And so, again, the fact that our city attorney, our city staff has been navigating that on our behalf, I thank them for that. Having said that, I think that I'm not ready to pass the zoning map that was presented tonight for at least a couple of reasons. So, one, I think that it simply is not clear enough. Even if we were all convinced that the land represented as R1 with a coastal overlay zone is all R1 with a coastal overlay zone, and that there's nothing else going on any of it, the way that it's colored with, I guess it's kind of blue slashes as opposed to black slashes, and it's all yellow, but there's a lot of other yellow on the map. I mean, to me, it's just not clear. I guess that's point number one. I think point number two, and so I'd like to see it colored in a way that makes it much more clear. That
sorry to interrupt you. Let me pause for a second. Typically, what happens here is staff listens to this, and then they're not sure because one council member said it, if that's in fact council direction. So, would it make sense on these things that we bring up to ensure that we have that so that they can accept that as
like pause
direction?
And agree.
Right.
Sure.
So,
what do you guys think?
On this first one, I absolutely agree with you.
I agree.
Do you agree?
I think you're nitpicking, but that's okay. You have three. Keep
Land
going.
use.
Moving on.
That's
That's fine. It's fine.
Has
You
to
have three.
nitpick.
No,
All right.
I think it's clear, but if you guys don't, that's okay.
All right. So the other thing I'd like to see, and I think that Mayor Pro Tem Kemp's already got us most of the way there, is I'd like to see a couple of notations on the map in something that's actually readable, sized, or somehow attached to it. I think it's a general note about CC&Rs and deed restrictions that apply across, essentially all parcels within the city. And then I think that it might be appropriate to have a specific note, which we sort of already have, that city parklands in the CO zone may be used only for public park purposes. I'd like staff to revisit the wording on that. That might be good enough, but I think maybe saying are deed restricted, comma, and may only be used for public park purposes might be a little bit more clear.
Councilor Lazaro,
I don't think that has anything to do with deed restricted on that one. That has to do with zoning.
Mayor Pro Tem's, we're happy to take whatever direction
Yeah.
you give tonight. I don't want staff to have to take another look and come back and guess. So you give us the wording. If you all agree, it'll be on the map.
So I think it would say,
They're separate issues. So one is the the parklands use, separate if you want a separate caveat stating that in addition to the zoning restrictions, deed restrictions apply throughout the property, and you should
Deed restrictions and/or CCNRs, right? Or,
Well, more specifically, deed restrictions in that
okay,
case.
okay, all right.
Deed restrictions limiting the use of the property.
Yeah, apply throughout the city.
Yes.
I like that.
Okay.
Deed restrictions,
Limiting the use of properties, apply throughout the city.
Yeah.
And then, let me know when you're ready.
So are we all in agreement on that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. All right. I'm just, yep, ready, okay. So the one that says the city parklands in the CZO zone may be used only for public park purposes, I would say, city parklands in the CO zone are deed restricted, comma, and may be used only for public park.
But that's not true. Their limited use is because of the coastal zone, not because of deed restriction.
don't-
Yeah, yes, it's not, it's in the deed restriction. There's, I think we should just quote the code for the Parklands issue. deed
So
restriction.
Derek,
Yeah.
let me support this and say, I think if you just generically say on the zoning map
Yeah. First,
that, well,
or generically.
don't take my words exact,
Yep.
that every ounce is deed restricted in the city, and that, that should be reviewed and consulted in addition to the municipal zoning that's found herein.
Yep.
That covers every last square millimeter, right?
Sure.
And I'm not sure that repeating it over and over again is necessary.
Okay.
And it's potentially conflicting with the municipal zoning that's aside of it, and that asterisk is intended to say, here's the zoning map, and here's what's in the city code. Your mileage may vary, you better verify this. Trying to recognize that
I
arm's
think
length
that works.
difference, but also
Yep.
showing that we're in collaboration, right?
Okay. So we would leave that
Leave that one
bullet
as is.
as it is. Okay. All right. I think that with those changes, I think that the other key point that I would have is basically just confirming Mr. Gilman's concerns. I know city staff has looked at this several times, but since we're going to come back again, we may as well just take one more look and make sure we understand what he's raised and,
Specifically, the partial open space question, right?
yeah, yep, and the R1 status, right, on everything that's marked R1 or not, yeah. And I think with those changes, I think I'm aware of one or two other minor kind of typos and other things that have been raised in other public letters transmitted to city staff. So long as all of those are addressed, I'd probably be prepared to pass it at the next meeting.
So I do think that, yeah, I'm good with you so far. I do think that this raises an opportunity to have a couple of conversations that are potentially tangential and maybe they could be brought back. One is to ask from a land use perspective in not only reviewing Mr. Gilman's comments relative to the open space locations inside of that, what is currently overlay zone, I would ask for specific land use legal guidance as to whether or not we could and should, well, I guess we can decide if should, whether we could specifically convert some of what is presently presented in that overlay zone and to understand the implications of that conversion to open space so that it is formally covered by the municipal code changes that were made with that Preservation Act. I'd like to better understand that, the implications of that, and not just calling it city parkland, oh well, stuffed under a zone because, oh well, the Coastal Commission was over there. I think we need to lead with intent and review that and understand and consider those implications separate and apart from this zoning map. So that would be a request.
I would support that. I think that I wouldn't necessarily ask staff to scramble and have that ready at the same time as this zoning map.
You know how things go. If you don't address them on the spot, and deal with it and get 3 votes? Well, oh yeah, we asked about that 6 years ago and we never did
No,
anything. Right?
If I'm hearing both of you correctly, I actually think you're saying the same thing. You're saying outside of the suggestive changes that the council's agreed upon
Yes,
to adopt the zoning map,
Yes.
outside of that,
yes.
sometime in the very near future, you
Yes.
would like analysis and review of of the implications and what it would take to rezone
Land in the coastal
land
zone
on the
to
coast
open
into
space.
open space.
Specifically at open space,
But
yes.
you're not going to hold, you're not,
I'm not holding the map hostage to do that, but I think it's an appropriate time since we're looking at this, and we've seen some of the response in the community in the way that they've seen this. There's an opportunity to discuss this and potentially further protect ourselves from the additional 100,000 legislative changes that may be coming our direction in the next 20 minutes.
no problem. I just want to make sure that we're.
All right, so there's that.
Everyone's on board with this
Yes.
plan?
Sure.
3 votes.
This question about the settlement and whether it was just deed restricted or whether we had to formally convert them to open space, and whether or not and how we depict them in the map. Let's go there. So were we in fact required to convert them, and did we?
Looking at the settlement agreement,
By the way, I'll say that I was sort of paying attention, heavily paying attention before that, a little before that, and all the way to now. We've never rezoned them. I can tell you that for straight. So,
so the city's obligations 1.2 regards several parcels, and the requirement is the city will cause deed restrictions commensurate with the Palos Verdes Estates 1940 deed restrictions to be imposed on the Bluff Code property, so that it is subject to the same restrictions as other parkland held by the city, including but not limited to the following excerpts. And then it has a few quotes. That the property is to be used and administered forever for park and or recreation purposes, that no buildings, structures, or concessions shall be erected, maintained, or permitted on the parkland except such as are properly incidental to the convenient and or proper use of said realty for park and or recreation purposes, and that the property shall not be sold, conveyed in whole or in part except to a body suitably constituted by law to take, hold, maintain, and regulate public parks. So they're deed restrictions, very strict deed restrictions, and I believe they were recorded, but it wasn't rezoned.
Not rezoned.
so I guess I would ask that maybe in conjunction with looking at the other lots that are inside of the coastal zone, that we review those, which I think are also in the coastal zone, plus the Via Panorama lot with the same question about open space conversion.
About rezoning the property to open
Yes.
space process. No
So
problem.
we dealt with the deed restrictions, that's fine. Now then, with good intent, let's also look at them as part of this other piece.
Are there 2 more that want to include that?
I'm nodding. Is there 2 more nodding?
Yes.
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 Okay.
You're just saying looking at it. Look at it and figure out what we've got.
I'm saying, no, I'm going further with that with intent, but I'm not doing it under this agenda item.
Yeah,
I would do it this second if I could vote for it.
This is, be careful, we can't deliberate or discuss an item not on the agenda.
Right.
Putting it on a future agenda, so we want to keep it constrained to that. This is a little bit different from the property, because I think this one is not in the coastal zone, is that right?
Correct.
Be slightly
The one.
Probably not Via
process.
Panorama's
So
probably.
Right.
we'll include processes for both inside and outside.
Okay.
I have one suggestion.
Were you finished?
I'm looking. We need to solve this battle over Lotto and not let it sit. You got to tell us how we're going to solve that. Not tonight, but one way or another, we need to solve that.
Mr. Kemps, if I could make a brief comment on
Yeah.
Lotto. So I made a half joke earlier about selling it. So I did read the deed restrictions on it. You know, I'm not the city's lawyer, but it seems to indicate that it can be used for governmental purposes. But it seems to also indicate that it's some sort of an outside agency that needs to use it for governmental purposes. So if it were owned by a fire department, if it were owned by the United States government, it specifically enumerates the United States government, they can use it for a governmental purpose. it's not clear if we can use it for a governmental purpose. So, obviously our lawyer would have to look at that and think about that, and then it
Okay,
would
so
have to
future-
overlap.
Maybe future agenda item to discuss
Yeah.
Lot O.
If you want to, we can, you're looking at an examination. Do you want us to examine the deed restrictions on the property? Okay, because I think there's already been a report regarding the zoning of it. So if you want to report on the deed restrictions related to Lot O, that can be brought back at a future agenda.
I'm no lawyer, but I'm saying that I believe that the city's municipal code and/or zoning of that lot is in conflict with the deed restrictions. But do the deep dive and let's see.
I would comment, but we don't want to get into a discussion on it.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Well, considering the zoning, it's ironic that we're going to bring it as a future item because the whole impetus for this project was the zoning on Lot O. And that's how this whole thing started, so, yeesh. Ay, ay, ay.
Well, and the good thing is at the end of the day, we want to be very, very clear and have the map be clear and have the residents understand the difference.
Right.
So that in the future, when there are other council members, there are other PVHA representatives, there are other residents, whatever it is, this lack of clarity and, frustration and argument stops. So it's just very, very concrete and clear what we have and what it is.
Interesting. Councilmember Quinn?
So I have a comment about the two maps. As I said in the beginning, the first map, which has the yellow coastal overlay zone in there, does not appear to, well, there's no way for us to look at it and see where the parklands are. So I would make a suggestion that we add one more change to that and crisscross those areas where the parklands are so that we know where they are. So it doesn't look like they're all one and you can build on them.
There's different layers to the map, but since I need to think about, because the color scheme is going to have to change and to show the residential, and I will work with the consultants a way that we can show it, show like the exhibit map shows pockets of homes and the parklands and everything.
Right.
So I will be working on that
Yeah,
section.
I think that's a good suggestion.
That's all I had.
Okay, so are you clear on your direction and you're going to bring it back?
I
Nope.
want to make sure I got the sentence right, Councilmember Lazaro,
Okay.
because I don't know if I wrote it down correctly. Deed restrictions limiting use of properties apply throughout the city.
Can we have the freedom to maybe expand on that? But that's the general gist, is that you want to,
Yeah.
I just don't want to come back in 2 weeks and debate it. But,
I think it's good to have a little flexibility to
Okay.
to be able to do it.
1948 map talks about deed restrictions, you just pluck that language.
Too bad we don't have that map.
Okay.
we got it.
How about if we just
Yeah.
provide leeway for
I
city
think.
manager to collaborate with the city attorney and bring back the language?
You got the gist of what you're trying to do.
Wanna make sure.
You guys can wordsmith it.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have direction?
Yes.
Okay. Uh-oh, did I die? Die.
You
Oh,
sound
not
alive.
dead. Okay, everybody good to move on? Okay. All right, sorry, 1 second, let me get back here. Come on.